Hi, I'm Bob, and a surprising number of you have kindly called me the Bob Ross of D&D. While I'm not a great artist, I have always loved to draw, so today we're going to make some maps. In my first D&D campaign, I was the player who mapped the twists and turns of every dungeon and helped my DM expand our regional map with settlements and land features. Those maps helped me visualize the world we were creating together. They served as tangible artifacts shared between myself and my character that really helped pull me into the game, and fortunately, my DM saved a lot of those old maps, so we get to look back on them from time to time. Now, I've also cautioned against the use of maps and other visuals in a recent video up here in the cards, because finding or creating the map you are envisioning can take a significant chunk of your prep time. And like all visuals, maps are a double-edged sword because they anchor the imagination of your players to one perspective, which helps immerse the group as one unit, but also limits the individual imaginations of your players. For these reasons, I prefer very minimalist maps. They're easy to make, and they only include essential elements to set the scene. So that's what we'll be making today. And we'll be gaining some inspiration from another fantastic tool for visualizing your world, the brand new Cartographer collection from this video's sponsor, dScryb. These interactive maps from dScryb allow you to hover over different sections to reveal their professionally written scenes of box text. And dScryb now has over 2,000 scenes for places, monsters, and more that are easy to search and save you time. Join for free through the link below so they know who sent you, or unlock more scenes using the coupon code BOB to save 10%. I'm such a fan of this service that I'm actually teaming up with dScryb as a channel sponsor for the summer. So after this video, please go show them some love. Now, using just one scene from dScryb, I'm going to make a quick, minimal map while sharing my thought process for creating it and why I think this particular map and scene is useful for you. Here we go. So first things first, let's start with the actual description from dScryb. Small wooden bridge. A bridge spans a small but deep ditch here. Someone split trees and laid them across the gap, providing a relatively level platform for travelers to cross. It's wide enough for a wagon, but it could do with one more log on either side. And so before I go full screen, I just want to take some notes from our actual description up here of some things that we can use to adapt to our drawing. This bridge spans a small but deep ditch. So since it's just like a hole and not necessarily a creek or a river, I know that we're probably on a road and it's just going over a ditch in the road. And someone split trees, so this isn't like, it is described as a small wooden bridge, but it's not like wood planks. It's just logs. And it says it's wide enough for a wagon, but it could do with one more log on either side. So it's pretty narrow as well. Cool. And that's really all we get. And we're going to use as much of this space as possible. Because one thing I learned in my years of high school art class is that you don't want to have a ton of negative space. So let's start with a road, right? I naturally, for some reason, just wanted to go this way. So that can be kind of our center line here for the road. And I do want to zoom out a bit and get rid of that line. You can see I'm getting a little better at this. So if our road goes that way, we probably just have a hill over here with, I am imagining, something of a creek that comes down it, because how else is this ditch going to form, right? And this has worn away part of our road. Medieval fantasy settings aren't known for their drainage and civil engineering skills. And I feel like I can already get rid of some of these notes. Now, one reason I chose this drawing is because one of the first encounters that I ever made for a homebrew game was a troll encounter on a road. It's actually what I used to start the campaign in which Grace and two of my friends played the RPG that I made, which doesn't really have a name, but I should come up with one because I've been referencing it a lot more lately. And this encounter involved two trolls, so they were obviously kind of edited for these 3 level 1 characters, and the characters were actually following this creek bed toward a town, and then they encountered, or rather saw from a distance up on this, I don't know if I actually described what the bridge was made out of, but up on this bridge, saw these trolls holding this halfling adventurer out over the bridge, basically just getting ready to drop her. And I think they did drop her. I think that's how the encounter started and kind of when we rolled initiative. Anyway, So I added another little layer here for our hill, basically going for a little bit of a topographical look, if you're familiar with topographical maps and how they'll show like 20, 15, 10 feet kind of listed out across these different layers of the hill. And ooh, I already had extended our road, but of course our road should just kind of follow along this curve. That makes more sense to me. This curve of the hill. Perfect. But like I said, trying to keep it minimal, trying to keep it quick, because this is our precious prep time that we're using right here. So we have a road. I don't want to make this look too much like our creek. Later on, we'll add some rocks or something in here. And we're gonna, of course, need some nearby trees. If they were able to get logs from not too far away to make this bridge, there must be some trees nearby. These trees, the road, these are the things that are going to inform our scale here, because I'm not going to overlay a grid on this. I find that using maps without a grid is still great for theater of mind play. And of course, I guess I'm probably legally obligated to say these are happy little trees over here. Since there are a lot of trees on this other side of the road, our river probably widens out here. This part of the land is getting more water. And the hill itself must just be leveling out. So why don't we add another kind of ring to our topographical hill over here. And we're going to have smaller trees up on the hill. Because, of course, on a slope, trees are never going to be quite as big as they will down in the valley. And now, as our map is getting already kind of filled up, I'm going to start drawing over some of my lines. So again, showing that, I'll erase some of these things later. But I think our major detail that we're still missing is these actual logs across our bridge, or across our ditch. So why don't we do this and have the road kind of expand here. This is our ditch. It did seem like our source material implied that the logs were laying parallel with the road, because it said that you would want another on either side to make it wide enough for wagons to pass. But I'm already kind of going to deviate from that and have the logs go a long way across, so perpendicular to the road. And here's probably where we can start getting rid of some of this stuff that's already been drawn, because this is all going to be under our log. And a good thing about drawing a map like this that's based on a natural encounter, an encounter out in nature, I guess I should say, and even this structure is made using natural materials, is I don't have to try to be really precise about my line work. I can just draw these old logs that have been laying here for who knows how long. And by whom, right? Probably not a professional. If it's just logs, like, this is no bridge builder. It was made by someone who just needed to get across. Maybe there's a town nearby, and this was made by the people who needed traders to get in, or their traders to get out. And I just noticed that I haven't even bothered to zoom in yet. Let's try that. That is one of the nice things about using this tablet that I've gotten recently. By tablet, I mean it's literally like a little black square. Let's just hold it up for a second. This is what I'm using to draw. It would be way easier if I could draw on the actual screen. So I might get another one in the future that allows me to do that. And you totally don't need something like this to get started drawing maps. You can definitely just go with paper. A grid paper can help, but not necessary. And now to go back to what I was saying about how I like this encounter and think it's useful, because you could use it in your own game anywhere out in nature, right? It doesn't have to be near a town where someone built this. This could have been built by some good Samaritans out there on the road just wanting to help other people who are traveling far and wide. But of course, like any structure out in the wilderness in D&D, it should be populated by some kind of monster. So in our case, yeah, you might want to use a troll for this. I like it because it's classic. It's what people expect to be at a bridge. Some kind of highwayman would be fine too, just people trying to shake down your party for some gold. That especially work well for low-level adventurers and provides an interesting encounter, because you can have your then low-level adventurers facing this humanoid threat, which is maybe something they would be less hasty to kill, basically, if it's actual humanoids, and who knows why they're out here. Why did they become a thief? not all of your players will be that empathetic in the heat of the moment as they're being robbed, but it can create a moral quandary to use bandits rather than just a troll, which is kind of a mindless, gruesome, almost cannibal-like beast because they eat people. All right, I'm feeling really good about this bridge, and didn't exactly do this on purpose, but it worked out really well how our bridge is dead center in our map here. And some things that any map really needs, this is like the very extent of my cartography knowledge from some of my environmental stuff in college, is that you're gonna want a title. Now, since I would just be showing this to players who are gonna be doing some kind of combat on it, who needs a title, right? I don't need to actually write small wooden bridge on this. One thing that is useful, which I kind of referenced before, is a scale. So I'm going to say that if the road is wide enough for one wagon, but not two, this feels like a bad math problem now. This is why scale can get kind of annoying. I would say maybe 10 feet wide. How wide is a car, right? 6 feet? I don't know. But it's more than 5. So what you might want to do is, like, say way down here in the corner, again, just kind of based on our road, boom, 5 feet. That's it. Like, that's your scale, right? So now you can use that to measure if you want, but if you're going to run a combat on this, you can say that that line's about 5 feet and just use that. You really don't need a grid. I find that it keeps combat moving much faster if you don't use a grid. So using a map without a grid is really a great go-between for players who are going to insist on knowing where the enemy is, but allowing you to still be kind of flexible with the movement. Okay, and I really like this, so now let's get into another tip from high school art days, and that is to, did I already mention this? Fill in some of our negative space, but really balancing our contrast a little bit. Our map is still super white, so we want to start adding more color, and I want to do that first by just thickening our lines. And so since we're getting into details, let's zoom in a little bit. And when I'm drawing, I tend to use darker lines near edges of the page. I don't know if that's like a real technique, but it's just something that I've always kind of leaned into. And we're only going to be adding these darker lines where one of our lines already exists. But contact points, so like I said, with the edge of the page, here with the bridge and all around these logs, the ditch itself, like, we want to create depth here, right? We want our eyes to be drawn toward this bridge, so we want the weight of these lines to increase. So actually, why don't I'll just do a thick outline on all these logs. That's one way we can kind of smooth out all those crappy lines I made moments ago. Even though I'm sure it's available, I don't even know like how to draw a line and then like snap it to make it straight or do that with any of my shapes. So this is all very much freehand. And yeah, you can see how like all these little round knobby ends are not the best looking for our logs here, but that's something we'll smooth out later on. Yeah, oh man, if we zoom all the way out, you can really just tell how you're really drawn into that. And I'm guessing I'm gonna have to add more weight to that later because I have to continue and go around our road and our hill and our trees and things. So everything's gonna start getting pretty dark here soon. Oh, but now as we're getting into shadows, I guess you could say, I do want to be thinking about our light source. That's another thing just to consider whenever you're drawing a map. And I should probably point out that we're already a little bit beyond what you really need. The first layer of that whatever initial size pen I was on is probably enough for your encounter with this troll or bandit or whomever you want your party to meet out on the road. We're just having fun now, guys. And hey, if you're liking this kind of video, please actually give it a thumbs up because I would love to know if people enjoy watching this kind of thing, because this is really fun for me. This is all part of my pursuit of acting and treating D&D more like I did when I was a beginner. That's literally why I'm drawing a map that I would have needed way back in the day, because I don't think I actually have my original map that I drew for this encounter. I used to draw tons of maps by hand. My first campaign that I DM'd, which was with D&D rules, the first thing I did, draw a world map. And then second thing I did, draw a regional map. Then third thing I did, started drawing town maps. Like, this was all probably before some of these towns even had names, because as much as I love naming things, that is also one of my favorite parts of D&D. It's just, man, it's not really that important. And these topographical lines really are not a good representation of realism at all. I hope I have not given the impression that I'm trying to draw anything very realistically here. This is for utility. And in that way, I am an okay artist, I believe. All right, we're looking pretty good here. Camera battery is strong. Do we switch to a lighter one? Do we draw some little rocks? Let's draw some little rocks. Most of our rocks will be on the side of the road, right? Because people have moved them. Just like our trees, our rocks will have some little dimples on them. On our hill, of course, we don't want a lot of rocks because they go downhill, so they wouldn't really be up here. Oh man, see what I did? I just started drawing the shadows like on this rock on the wrong side. And then I did it for the rest of them. But man, I don't care. That's the kind of stuff that like I used to obsess over as a DM. And it can be fun to obsess over this stuff if you have a lot of time to do it. But like I said, I'm kind of trying to mimic our prep time here, which we always want to keep as efficient as possible. So now what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and do a sweep over some of these thick lines to erase all their little round ends. And if I was smarter at using this application, I probably could have used a different brush that would have avoided that in the first place. But I'll do this really quick and speed it up for you. And let me cut into this time lapse here for a little second to say a really important part of this process of what I'm doing right now. But honestly, the process of any time you're drawing something, and really, guys, you can apply this to so much of DMing, is just avoiding second guessing yourself. That is our problem as DMs, right? We want to over prep. We want it to be perfect. And we don't think of it as over prepping. We justify it as doing what we need to do to make the session fun. But what I've been trying to get to for myself and for you, who I make these videos for, right, is remembering that the many, many hours of prep are not what makes the game fun. Nor is it the books. Nor is it, honestly, even these videos a lot of the time. It's these core messages that you're getting right here. That is to say, you are what make the game fun. Just being there for your friends, whether you're the DM or a player, and the silly ideas you're going to come up with in the moment are oftentimes what lead to the most memorable moments for D&D. And so will all these little edges that I'm refining here on this log bridge make my game a lot more fun? No. So that's why I'm really not trying to spend a lot of time on any one of these single strokes, right? We're just following our gut, doing what feels right. And then, as we zoom out and look at it, it's actually looking really good. And that is so often how things work, right? It's only when we zoom out, take that step back to realize whether or not we put a lot of time into it, we're always kind of happy with the end product. Or maybe you just enjoy the process, right? That's the biggest part of all of this, probably, is that if you like drawing maps, draw maps. If you like creating really detailed NPCs, create really detailed NPCs. Do what is fun for you. But most of the time, when just you are having fun, the group will have fun. I really like how this is coming out. So I think now what I'm going to do as kind of a last step, which I hinted at before, was to just throw in some cross-hatching. And what is cross-hatching? It might sound like an artistic term, but all it really is some lines, and then maybe, I guess, to actually be cross-hatching, you do that. Or if you just want to do hatching, I guess, ta-da, that's it. So we're going to do some of these by the bridge, since that's our main focus. Let's take 1 second to think about that light source again. Coming from that way. So yeah, this southwest side of our bridge is going to be the darkest. And again, this is already kind of way more detail than you really need. We were probably good like 10 minutes ago. I am going to post it on my Patreon but anyone would be able to download it. It'll just be a public post, and I'm going to do that until the end of summer, at which point then it'll just become available for patrons. But it'll be up there a while for everybody. That's great. Dude, this looks sick. This looks kind of old school, dare I say. Just the heavy black and white. The cross hatching, I'm liking it. I'm liking it a lot. Why don't we add a little bit more, because my camera battery is now getting low. We're going to add a little bit more cross hatching around our trees, and then we're going to call it. But like I've said, I've really had a blast doing this. I think I need to watch some more Bob Ross. I really haven't seen it since I was like a kid. I know it's on Netflix now, so there's not really an excuse, right? But I should watch some. See what the heck he really talks about while he's drawing. And don't get me wrong, I really feel like it's a compliment every time someone says that. Because I know it just comes from a place of them feeling like this is a very wholesome channel, which I aim for to some degree. Alright, there she is. So remember, this minimal map will be available on my Patreon all summer, link down in the description, but consider subscribing and joining Patreon, like Frank, Nathaniel, Marshall, Sean, Studio, Eric, Miraki, Craig, Corey, and Teresa just did. Thank you to dScryb and all of you for your support, and keep building.